So in my opinion, one of the notable problems of the show was anything and everything that was related to sex. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I've decided to review the TV show Bridgerton. Yes, it's on Netflix and there are only 8 episodes, so you know, one thing to do this holiday season. First things first, if you were a fan of Gossip Girl as a teenager, or you know, in your early 20s like some people, this show is for you, especially if you thought you were too grown up for Gossip Girl and it was too dumb. This show is for you, trust me. Lady Whistledown is the adult version of Gossip Girl. But on the other hand, if you're a fan of properly done period dramas, I don't know how you'll feel about this show, but they're gorgeous human beings, and there's the segue to the next thing I want to talk about. As usual, I want to rank like the top 5 most attractive people on the show, and the 5th place is Anthony Bridgerton. I think he's on this list simply because his behavior and like his personality just makes him my type, and that's never a good thing. And 4th place is Daphne, who the season basically revolves around, and she's absolutely beautiful. She's like this dainty, delicate, beautiful woman, and I love that. 3rd place is Madame Delacroix. I hope I said her name right, but she is just hot. I don't know how else to describe her. She's independent, she does her own thing, she lives her life. And the 2nd place is Will, the boxer. I think that explains it all. He's just badass and he's a boxer, and 50% of the times we see him on screen, he's punching the hell out of someone, and yeah, I'm not complaining. And of course, I'm a basic bitch, and the first spot, the hottest guy in the show, or hottest person in the show, period, is Simon, or the Duke of Hastings, or Simon Bassett, however you want to address him. Yeah, it's not fair that some people are just that beautiful. Like, at first you think he's just hot because he's brooding and he has this very stoic nature. Is that the term? He's just so serious, and he looks like he's mysterious and badass because he doesn't smile. And you're like, ooh, okay, cool, that's the vibe. And then he smiles and you're just like, oh great, you have a gorgeous smile as well. Like, yeah, he's just beautiful. But basically the show is great for right now if you want some escapism and you want some fun in your life. I know this holiday season has been a little bit empty and a little bit boring for all of us. We miss family drama, we miss gossiping about people right behind their backs, and this show gives you all of it. From the comfort of your own home, in your pajamas, you don't even have to dress up. You can just watch this show and like fill that void in you, because it's all about drama and gossiping about people. And they're rich and fancy and they dress in pretty clothes, so they're cooler than, you know, any of our families could be. So I would say that this show is basically Pride and Prejudice meets Gossip Girl in many ways, because it just revolves around marrying off your kids and like finding the best match in society, and then there's just this mysterious writer that is revealing everyone's secrets to everyone else. I found that this show basically evokes a couple specific emotions. It's not exactly all-encompassing. It doesn't give you that much range. It is, after all, a romantic novel turned to a TV show, so there's only so many things it covers. That doesn't make it any less exciting. I'm just letting you guys know that you can expect certain things from this show, and that is exactly the feelings you get from reading a dramatic romance novel. I should probably pick one up. It's been a while. It's been years. One of the plus points of watching this show is basically the fact that it's very, very visually pleasing. Everyone's always dressed up and the ballrooms are all decked out, and the show is lit in a way that is very welcoming and warm, that when the lighting changes you can tell and like you can predict stuff. So for us as the viewer, we're just like, oh, that's pretty, that color combination is great, and then we can sit here and condemn their choices of fabric and color combinations. Trust me, there's a lot of that to do as well. So if you just want to sit there and critique everyone's outfits, still a great show to do that. So one of the major things that you will notice as soon as you start watching the show is the fact that the cast and the roles and the characters are just so diverse. And this is one of the best parts about, a reimagined fantasy world that is based on a certain era in history, but, it's not accurate, obviously. But it's also Queen Charlotte's ancestry that allows for this reimagination, and I think that is a really fun artistic liberty that they took with the creation of the show, and I really enjoyed that. It just gave you a variety of people. It makes the show just that much more exciting and fun to watch, and a little less realistic and a little less stressful, because in your head you already know that this is not based on a true story. This is not based on anything real. So it really adds to the entertainment factor. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because it kind of does erase certain struggles. But for a TV show that is just purely a romance, a drama show, I am not complaining, but I can see where some people might have an issue with it. But on the other hand, it is very entertaining. Okay, now that we've gone over everything that I absolutely loved about this show, there are things that didn't sit that well with me, or rather that prevented me from being in love with that show. And one of those things is just the fact that it is rather shallow. It lacked depth, and I think that is simply because it is, taken, or rather it is adapted from a romance novel, and in general romance novels tend to lack actual depth. I'm not saying that romance novels are bad, but when you're reading it, you're immersed in a certain type of emotion and you're looking for it. In a TV show, I just thought I'd be getting a little bit more depth and a little bit wider range of emotions, feelings, situations, things handed to me, and I didn't get that. So if you're going in to watch this, don't really look for that. And also, it is a Shonaland show, so I was expecting a little bit more grit, a little bit more darkness, and a lot more depth. I think I went in with a preconceived notion. I expected certain things from the show, and it was just not what the show was designed to deliver. There were dark moments. I'm not denying that. But it was just done in a way that the dark moments were just glossed over. It was not really brought to the forefront. It was just a small little plot device to move something else, the main agenda, forward. So it didn't really add to the excitement, in my opinion. But I really struggled to kind of accept the portrayal of women, especially the women of society. And I know that it has nothing to do with the show, and the issue was not with the show itself. The issue was with the treatment of women in society during the Regency era, or any other era in the past for that matter. So it was just so frustrating, and I'm just like, all these girls need is some exposure. That is exactly how I felt while I was watching The Crown, and when the Diana plotline came on, I'm like, she was 19, she needed more exposure. But that's off topic right now. But it was just hard to wrap my head around the idea of, I won't call it innocence or naivety. It was just that these women were so sheltered, deliberately so. It was not that people were even trying to protect them. It was just that they were trying to be kept proper, and it was just so frustrating. Which technically is not a negative point of the show, because it drives a lot of the plot, but it's just so frustrating to sit and watch as a modern woman, and it kind of made me feel really, really bad for these women, these characters, or any of the women that they might represent from the past. Okay, I think I've gone through everything that I wanted to touch on about this show, the reasons why you should watch it and what you should prepare yourself for if you're choosing to watch it. Now we're gonna go into one specific incident, and this is a big spoiler alert right here. So if you have not watched the show and you don't want anything to be spoiled for you, leave now. And then come back and watch the rest of the video and comment down below, but leave now. So in my opinion, one of the notable problems of the show was anything and everything that was related to sex. Okay, actually anything and everything that was related to sex involving the women of society. The men, whatever, like the men and the women that were not part of high society, whatever, they had a grip on what was happening. But the women of society, that was where the problem was. So one of the things that bugged me the most is Daphne's actions towards Simon. We live in 2020 and the show was created for an audience of 2020. Yes, the novel was written 2 decades ago, but the show creators did take a ton of liberty with the book, so I'm not blaming the novel in any way. What Daphne does to Simon after she finds out his can't have children, the truth about his can't have children line, was essentially rape, because everything we preach in today's world is about continued consent. That is one of the most important things. Just because someone consented to sex doesn't mean they consented to, well, in Simon's case, he did not consent to ejaculating in her and potentially becoming a father. That is something that he didn't want to do, and she basically forcefully held him down and took that right away from him. So what she did was definitely very, 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 very wrong. But here's where I have an issue with everything, is that I do think the show needed to have handled this whole thing differently. But if you're just looking at the characters and what the characters were going through, what Simon did to Daphne was also repulsive, because he took advantage of her lack of knowledge and how uninformed she was about the whole baby making, childbearing process. Instead of being honest with her and saying that he didn't want to have babies or children, not just babies, children, he, well, was using the tried and true method, and he hid it from her. He hid the truth from her, and in the process caused her so much pain. So when she took her revenge, okay, I don't even like saying that, but when she tried to prove her point by essentially raping him, I was so mad at him that I couldn't feel sympathy for him. And I feel like that is definitely society having conditioned me to sympathize with the woman more. As a woman, I think I sympathize with the woman more. But also the fact that he took advantage of her in so many different ways, and she was acting out. I don't know, the only reason I brought it up was because the scene happened, and I don't think Daphne even acknowledged what she did was wrong. She talked him out of his stubbornness and like eventually went on to have kids with him, but the issue is that she never really apologized. If anything, she was hoping that her act, her taking advantage of him, worked to keep him close, which is basically like entrapment. Is that what you would call it? Like she was trying to trap him in this family life that she wanted, that he never wanted. So I feel like the show should have made Daphne be a little more remorseful and apologize. Like I said, it was one of the dark moments and they just glossed over it. Like with the scene where Daphne was being attacked by one of the suitors in the beginning. Even then, I felt like they just glossed over the bad things that happened, which also is very... It resembles how the society at the time handled issues, because you're so afraid that you'll be ruined and like you need to protect your reputation and all of that. So I guess the show just mirrored what people did at the time, which makes sense, but also the audience are a 2020 audience. So I just feel like the show could have handled these situations just a little bit better. But you know, I'm not questioning the god of all TV, Shonda Rhimes, because she's one of the best and we love her. But that doesn't mean TV shows don't come with their flaws, and it doesn't mean that we shouldn't criticize these things and start a conversation about it, because it's not very often that we have the chance to start a conversation about women raping men, especially in a situation of continued consent and actually, you know, going with the idea of yes means yes, not no means no. It's yes means yes, and enthusiastic yes is what matters. And if we don't talk about it, it'll be very hard to change the mentality around it, especially with the world always saying that men are never victims, men don't need as much protection as women, and that is absolutely not fair, and it should be handled very differently. And I just thought I should share my thoughts on that particular incident. But besides that, it's a very dramatic, very fun-filled, very... I can't think of a word, so I'm just using my hands. It is a show that you can binge, not only because it's only 8 episodes, but because Lady Whistledown keeps you coming back for more. Julie Andrews. But it's also the fact that everything's intertwined and you just keep wanting to know, okay, this is settled, what's happening over there? What's happening over there? Because there are so many other families. I didn't even touch on the drama in the Featheringtons household. I didn't even touch on Simon Bassett's childhood. There's just so much happening in the show that you just keep coming back for more. So if you want a TV show that will keep you occupied while you eat leftovers, or you order takeout, no judgment, and chug a bottle of wine, not chug, drink a bottle of wine, this is the perfect show for you. So I hope you enjoy this show and this review helped you make a decision on whether or not to watch it, or, you know, just we share some thoughts on the show. And if you agree with me on anything, just comment down below, and if you disagree with me, please comment down below. And till I see you guys in my next video, goodbye.